Hello, welcome back to another Pen Talk. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for not being too harsh with me on my little problem that I have, and this is an indication of that problem. We see a black box. So regular viewers should instantly recognize what this box is. It's a PENBBS pen. But there's two things different about this one. It's a 349, so that's a new model. It's a number 8, so that's a color that I don't have. And we'll see if there's any interesting translations of the Chinese there. So this is the classic box. It gets a little bit beat up in shipment, but the point is to securely the pen, to keep the pen from injured during transit. The pen was in a plastic sleeve, so I took out the plastic sleeve and here's the pen. So this is that kind of pinkish blue color combination, which sometimes sells out quickly, so therefore, who knows. It's not high on my list, but I don't think I had a lot of options when I got this on eBay. Here's the eBay auction that I won. So we'll go over the differences between this and the 308, which is the model that preceded this one. Same classic cigar shape. The clip is different, much different. A little ball on the end, more stylized angles here. There's no finial at the top, so the clip is just inserted into a slot that's in the machined acrylic. A smaller band around the middle, which doesn't extend all the way down. And interesting, the band actually has the model number on it versus the 308, which had a different number there. You can see a little bit of translucency in this particular resin. I mean, I have to admit I like it. It's just not the colors that I really would get excited about. As we unscrew the cap, which is again common with all the PENBBSs, you will notice that the section is the same material as the cap and body. So I've always appreciated that in PENBBS. They don't skimp and make a generic section here of some black material. We also notice a metal ring here, which kind of leads us to believe that there's a metal piece to this section. As we unscrew it, we'll notice a metal section, very similar to what we find on sailors and some pilots. So who knows? It's the same screw-in nib assembly. I've taken it out and cleaned it thoroughly. Same converter with that little spring in it. One of the things that this design does, it precludes using it as an eyedropper. The other one had a plastic section machined. This was all one piece. And it had an O-ring on it, which made it more resistance when you unscrewed and screwed in the barrel. So that's one of the differences. So we're going to compare this to a 308. And one of the things that we'll notice, which I thought was a little bit interesting, is there's a screw now inside the top of the cap. So I'm going to compare that to how the 308 was done. So obviously the clip is slid into place and that screw secures it. We always are concerned about that screw rusting or having issues with ink over time. But as we take a look at the original 308, that also had a metal insert in it. So my guess is these are well plated and hopefully will survive longer than needed. The dimensions are very close between the two pens, but posted, the 349 definitely is a little bit longer, as you can see here at the end. But the caps are the same length. The barrels are the same length, so it's just that the 308 posts deeper than the 349. So here's my 308 totally disassembled. And here's the screw that's in that top of the cap that holds in this finial, which holds in the clip. And as we can see, the differences in the clip here. I mean, that's a substantial change to the way that that looks. Both of them have their advantages. Both of them work well. And then we can see that cap band. I think the cap band on the original one was more functional. Certainly we've all had issues with cracking here on the other side of this cap band. And of course this said 266 and not 308, so that was something that also confused people. But no cap liner in here. And one of the things I thought was interesting when I took it apart is this finial is really a thick acrylic. So as usual, the threads have been silicone greased, including the thread on this little screw. So we're going to reassemble that. We're going to ink up the 349 and put nib to paper. It looks like it's exactly the same nib, so I expect the same writing experiences as we had with the 308, the 323, the 309, and the 267 that preceded it. I put together these 4 pens to talk a little bit about pen design, and there's only so much variation you can make in a pen and not have it vary too much from what people expect, because it is a writing instrument. It's not just a piece of art to look at. So I put together the 2 PENBBSs, and I have to admit that the 349 is bigger than the 308 by a decent amount. I also wanted to show you this Sailor Magellan, which is from the 90s, which has a very similar clip and the cigar shape, but the ends aren't quite as pointy. Then if you go to the 309 and then compare it to a 1911 standard, the clip is different enough to make it not appropriate, but you do have that band and the finial at the top. But what Sailor did, I think, to just give it balance is they put also a band and another finial at the bottom of the barrel. So the PENBBS people did not do that. This is a one-piece unit, which I think is nice. And I also talked about how I like the one-piece cap, but with the metal inserts and everything inside the pen, it wasn't quite, I thought, a total improvement. So here's a Sailor. If you open it up, you'll see there's a band here at the bottom of the section. But if you unscrew the barrel, you'll notice there's a metal piece to the section, which I think almost every Sailor has, at least any of the Sailors in the higher end. I even think most of the lower end ones also were designed that same way. So interesting to see how pens have similarities, and I wouldn't necessarily call them copies, like some people seem to be fixated on, but you know, that's the way it is. I mean, you're limited to a design. I don't have any Mont Blancs to show you, and I probably never will, so that would be the other pen to bring into this series. I could also bring in Schaefer Balances, which I think was one of the first pens to make this kind of cigar-shaped pointy end design. So what ink? This is a Sailor ink I haven't used in a while, and I figured Sweet Violet would be an interesting ink to put into that very colorful pen. And here's what that ink looks like in the cap. I'm not a fan of these inserts in this bottle. It's a pain in the butt to fill a pen. I mean, in order to fill the cartridge converter in the PENBBS, I had to get ink in this twice, and I usually take these out in bottles that I use regularly. As with all the PENBBS pens, this nib requires no tuning. It's really smooth. It lays down a nice patch of ink. Dries quickly on this Fabriano paper. It opens up a little bit if you put some pressure on it, but it certainly wouldn't call it a flex pen. But considering this is a fine nib, it's more like a fine medium. But, you know, I recommend these pens to anybody who enjoys a pen that you write with. The section feels a little bit smaller, but it's only slightly smaller than the 308. But to me, I feel that difference. Here's these measurements. And also the design's a little different. The 349 is more of an hourglass shape. So I just like the 308 better. So we'll talk about rating. And I'm going to call this one a 7.5. That's my skipping. So the 308, I would give that a 9.0. So I don't think they've made improvements to this. I think it's just different. The fact that they put metal in here doesn't do anything for me. It just limits the use case as an eyedropper. The clip is neither here nor there. This looks more like a pilot clip than we had before. The other one was probably, you know, more unique in its own design. The cap band doesn't come all the way down to the bottom. So you got this piece here that could crack on you. And I think this is looks nicer because you got a continuous design from the bottom of the cap to the top of the cap. But, you know, that is minor, and it's not, you know, functionally the pen is still the same. So that's my review of this new pen from PENBBS. So thank you for watching. We're at the end. May you have many wonderful, great, exciting, stimulating, thought-provoking pen experiences. Until next time, bye.